Hello, possums. It's your intrepid sociologist here, Dr. Lena, and I'm now back in freezing Melbourne. I had a great time. Thank you to all those who were part of it. I want to give a shout out to Megan and Nick, who were very kind to me after their show. It was such a pleasure to meet you guys. And also, I want to shout out to Igor and Alan, who are my playmates in Sydney, and we always have a good time. There are many others, but especially to Megan and Nick. Thank you guys so much. Now we have to get cracking because the world is doing a giant wobble because of Israel strikes on Iran and Iran retaliating and who's got nuclear and who hasn't and who mustn't be allowed to have it even though they've got it. And, it's all so complicated. But here's the thing. We, as the conventional allies, by that I mean UK, Canada, US, New Zealand, etc. Now we have gone into every conflict with you guys. I'm speaking about Australia here, right? So our guys were conscripted, sent to Vietnam, drenched in Agent Orange. Their lives were completely brutalized and horrific. And then there was debacle after debacle in the Middle East, right? Because for some reason, Bush decided that after 9/11, the obvious thing to do was bomb Afghanistan. And we know how that went. So we here in as other parties have to make a decision about whether we're going in to further destabilize the Middle East or not, because it puts a target on our back, it puts a target on your back. It's not without consequence. But we'll have a look at all that. In the meantime, I'm thrilled to report there's been a lot of defections from the big departments. That includes the FBI under Kash Patel, the Pentagon under the DUI appointment Hegseth, you know, and the White House itself. So there's very good investigative journalists who have their people on the inside. We all know the White House leaks like a sieve. It always has. You can't keep a lid on that many people. It's a small city, you know what I mean? So I want to have a look at these defections from the main departments. What's happening here? What's happening here? They've had enough and they're going, oh, that's interesting. I'll keep those two. They leapt out. All right, let's have a look. Well, they know judgment's coming. Yeah, look at this. Look at this. These are people on the inside, right? So we think it's bad from the outside looking in, but they can see what's happening every day of the week, right? So they know this cannot continue. This is my Rising Up America card. So I hope you're still buzzing after the No Kings protests. This is people rising up in judgment. And these people who have resigned instinctively know that this is not sustainable. They will continue to speak up despite signing non-disclosure agreements, etc., etc. They feel that the time is big, right? They get it. So they will continue to speak up. Now, the star and the crossroads. This is a crossroads for what America traditionally represented. So America, on the one hand, told itself, bring us your huddled masses, land of immigrants, start again. You will not be persecuted for your religious persuasion. You will not be persecuted here. This is the great and the good, equal opportunity for all. Now, massive myth, as we know, however, not all myth, because millions and millions and millions of people made a success of it. However, this is a foundational time for the crossroads. With this immigration business, it is no longer that thing. Right. And we can see from the orchards rotting right through the agricultural industries, hospitality industries, construction industries, where the migrants were actually working. So this is the crossroads. Now they understand, these ones who have left, the administration itself is a burden. The actual administration is a burden to the American people. Should we be surprised? No, we are not surprised. But let's go a bit further. This is behind the scenes in those departments and others. The Governance Oracle by Trish James. Let's have a look at the Governance Oracle. It's got to add to this. Ooh. Shifting dynamics outside the trusted circle and stepping down. I love these cards. Look at this. This is exactly what we're talking about. It's exactly, they can sense panic. You know, for those of you who know anything about farms or animal wrangling, once a panic sets into a herd, it doesn't matter if you're talking about chickens or bisons, they can feel the shifting dynamic. They are now outside the trusted circle, which is probably a safer, better place to be, but they're outside it and they're stepping down. In other words, this is going to continue. What this probably means in real terms is even less competent people get brought in hourly because we know you can buy yourself a cabinet position. Just from back in the My Pillow days and Giuliani and all of it. Give the Yeti money and name your appointment. I want to be the ambassador to Liechtenstein. Here's $126,000. Oh, okay, fine. You know, it's so blatant, so absolutely blatant. All right. Now, the judge in the Abrego Garcia case has ordered White House admin to submit, it's funny just saying it, to submit their texts. Oh, wow. This is them going, just get him out of the country. But we haven't got the authority. Doesn't matter, just put him on a plane. Those texts, right? So will they submit them? Will they submit them? Will they come up with the texts on command by the judge? Now, the judge has said they want these texts. I don't know if it includes emails. Maybe they've already got the emails, but the text will go to a special master. So here we're having visitations from Jack Smith and the special master status, right? Will they actually submit them or not? Can't trust them to do the right thing, can you? Oh, no, they're not. We should not be surprised. This is the judge representing everything I was just describing about what America represented to itself as much as the world, right? Um, Now here's the swords in the heart of the judiciary. I think they're going to ignore it. They're howling at the moon. They'll just keep the stalling tactics going. And they're confused about what their legal responsibilities are because they're so far removed from proper legal advice because they've got Pam Bondi and what's her face in New Jersey, you know, Alina Habba and stuff. This is their legal advice. I think these two stories are connected. I think being asked to do that will make some of the others actually quit. I think it's a descending order of chaos, isn't it? Hegseth will presumably be first, followed by Kash Patel, followed by Marco Rubio, because it couldn't be the Yeti's fault. The fact that all this is turning to caca in his hands, in his little tiny fingers. Ooh, wow. Okay, now I want to have a look at Ken Martin again. Now, regular viewers on this channel will know I've been bitching about the invisible Ken Martin, head of the Democratic National Committee, the head of the Democrats. And I'm not alone. It would appear suddenly all these people are speaking up and they're saying, we never hear from this man. There is no guidance from this man. He's not up to the task. He's the wrong guy at the wrong time. It was like putting Merrick Garland in to prosecute J6. Wrong guy at the wrong time of history. Just didn't have the cojones to get it together. And Ken Martin is an abject disaster. Now we've had the Teachers' Federation that is under threat from every angle, walking away from the Dems. That's how bad Ken Martin is. He's described as weak and whining. So apparently, and again, people have been given immunity to these independent journalists so they can be quoted. So one quote was, he was complaining to a staffer saying, with all this Dem infighting, I don't get the chance to be the leader I want to be. Now, what is wrong with that sentence? Everything. Absolutely everything. The leader is supposed to pull people together and show unity. You keep the backstabbing in the toilets, you keep the backstabbing in the car park, you keep the backstabbing when you're sucking a couple of bourbons in your den. That's where the backstabbing goes on, not a paralysed head of the DNC. So I want to know, will Ken Martin be replaced? But I have dwindling faith in the corporate Dems. They're holding back the talent. There is such talent in the Dems. Let it loose. So Ken Martin, let's have a look. What's happening with Ken Martin? Talk about Ken and Barbie, he's such a blank slate. Environment, collective action, economic growth. Twisted advisor, well, that's him. Environment concerns. I don't think we're talking about the Green New Deal here. I think we're talking about his working environment. He's so middle of the road. He's another one with arthritis from bending the knee, this time to the corporate Dems. His environment is no good. Collective action, I think people might join together to push him out. Economic growth, who cares what he has to say? He is a non-entity. So he's wittering on about economic growth when 880 billion is about to be cut from Medicaid and Social Security. What would the man know about economic growth? His trusted advisor, who I think is Pelosi and possibly Schumer and stuff, I read this when I first picked up the card as twisted advisor. I think this is the problem. The advice he's getting is not good for this time in history. They have to move over. The old guard have to move over because he's representing them, not the dynamism that is required now. This is a time to sweep 70% of Americans into the tent. If not now, when? No, we'll get rid of David Hogg. Oh, we'll appoint Ken Martin. They're making all the wrong decisions at the wrong time, you know. But it's better to happen now and get it out of the way before next year. 2026, all this crap has to be over, and the Dems have to get over their fear of leadership. I don't want anyone to get the wrong opinion. I'll just whimper on in the corner. No, go out there and knock them out. Okay, let's look. While I'm shuffling, I have to have a look at the stock market because I said I would last time and then I failed to do that. So we're going to look at the stock market. Now, there was a story during the week. This guy from South Carolina, RJ May, his name is, and he was a favored pet for Moms for Liberty. Now, you always have to run a mile when you hear the liberty word in a title. It's always code for flat earthers. They loved him. Now he's been done for the distribution of child pornography. It's always the ones who are in each other's bedrooms, literally. They can't keep out of other people's bedrooms. Okay, the stock market, guys. And I'm going to use the Italian cards as well for the stock market. Now, we've got to be careful because the stock market is not the economy and vice versa, but it's symbolic. So I'm going to read on the stock market and the economy, okay? Because the stock market can be doing well and the economy is sinking, or as in the Biden era, the economy doing really well, but people don't feel it as doing well. So let's have a look first at the stock market, then the economy. Okay. So many ones. Now the economy. All right, now stock market. King of Wands, this is the powerful. This is who I call the conventional oligarchs, the excuse me, the multi-million dollar corporations, the seat of power. They've got this 10 of cups going on. So the GOP isn't frightened yet. And there's still this lingering mythology that the Republicans are responsible with money and the Dems only spend. We have this same myth in Australia, even though the Conservatives get in, they spend more than Labor ever does or the Dems ever do, and then the Dems have to clean up their mess and around it goes. They've still got the GOP on side. They haven't seen a stock market collapse yet. They've seen the troughs and the stuff, but they haven't got there yet. This is the big titans of industry again. This is a different vibe. They want to go forward and make more money because that's all they think about, dream about, and do. Make more money, make more money. But they're reining in the horse. This is investment capital, reining in the horse, going, we cannot make long-term investments in this climate. We don't know what he's going to do tomorrow afternoon. So they're reining in the horse. Secretly, they're pining for the Biden era when it was much more clear cut and their profits were huge anyway. So Biden turned up there. Interesting. Now, the economy, everything is a trade-off, card of compromise. And this is what I've been harping on about, guys, too. Managing whatever money you've got, be it a little, a middle amount, or a lot, whatever your situation is, being very careful and making your dollar grow for you. And I know when you're hard pressed and you're living payday to payday, which is half of America, mind you, it's really hard to think in those terms. But I think what has happened is this is the Queen of Cups here. This is changing people's values and their attitude to money, right? This is valuing relationships more than money. This is about kindness and how kindness can build your resource base. And if you have more resources in terms of better relationships with your neighbors in apartment blocks or in your neighborhood or in your regional space, whether you're in a big city or a small town, relationships are going to help you through the hard times with no money. This is traditionally the card of victory. I think by understanding and dealing with money differently, it frees you from this, cold stomach feel about worry about money. Because most people worry about money either because they haven't got enough and you're genuinely worried how you're going to make that money stretch, or whether you're expecting to retire with a certain 401, you can see it slipping away. That is a real worry. Even if you've got more money, you're worried about your assets in a way you haven't had to before. So it doesn't matter where you are on the financial spectrum. We're all being asked to rethink, this is the practical queen, how we manage money and how we see money and what qualities we give to money and what qualities we maybe should be putting somewhere else. This is a really interesting lineup for your personal economies here, guys. So before I go, let's go global, because like I said, the whole world is waiting with bated breath and talking to each other and going, what on earth is going to happen now? We're looking at this global crisis. Netanyahu, of course, trying to keep himself out of jail by going bigger. Not happy with destroying Palestine, he now wants to drag us all into a war. Let's have a look at Iran. What's happening there, how it impacts the world. Look at this. Okay. I've got to think more about this card now that Biden is technically out of the scenes. Who is it now? Well, this could be, I'm getting a bit of a Macron vibe here. It could also be Metz of Germany. This is a European figure anyway. So this is a man who understands emotions, and that's why the Tim Walzes of this world, the Beto O'Rourkes, the Pete Buttigieg's are so important. They're super smart, but they also understand emotions. And I think this could be Macron or it could be Merz of Germany, who might turn out to be more interesting than he initially appears. Right. We've got also Carney in Canada. We've got Albanese here in Australia. Neither of them are alpha men either. It's time for a new masculinity in leadership. Quite pleased to see this card, but there's a lot of work to be done. Okay. Everyone's out in the cold because everyone is impacted by this conflict, because Russia will side with Iran, China will side with Iran, embargoed Iranian oil's been going to China. This is a huge shift in global dynamics that is impacted. The guerrilla fighters will probably shut the Strait of Hormuz, and that drags the US into it all again, etc., etc. So we've got this. This is very emotional for people, particularly um, Europeans and Eastern Europeans, because they're just recovering from the Second World War, then the Bosnian conflict, and then this, and Russia always hovering, making a play for Poland, etc. People are very emotional, which is why it takes a leader who understands this emotion. We're used to seeing the world through the lens of the USA or through the lens of the Commonwealth. And the point is now it's a different era. Judgment is here. How we behave, how we ally ourselves, all of us in our different regionalities, will impact the world going forward. And we have to be prepared with this Seven of Wands, different shoes, having to be prepared quickly. This was not a crisis 4 weeks ago. It was talked about by the Talking Heads class, of course, of things that were potentially on the horizon. But most people were not thinking about it and still aren't, but they're concerned. So this is about being prepared. And I think we have to be prepared for all things at all times. So let me just pull some cards for you guys for this week. Oh my goodness. Let's have a look. Oh my God. Let's have a look for this week. What's some helpful advice for you for this week, guys? Advice for this week. Let's have a look. Wow. You have infinitely more power than you realize. Absolutely. This is good. Now, there'll be yet more surprise news. I think we're over the surprises a bit, but get used to it. There'll be more surprise news. But let's look at another angle and interpretation of this card. Okay, the fish was the symbol of Christianity before it became the cross. It was the fish. So in ancient Rome, there are carvings in stone of the fish, which was code for the early Christians. We've got the new Pope, and you don't call yourself Leo unless you want to be noticed. So there's a religious thing going on in terms of conventional religion, but this also speaks to your spirituality, whatever that is for you. And I hope with this community, we're allied in positive spiritual grounding and beliefs that may be very different from each other, but we share the common spiritual ground. Ace of Pentacles here, this is new, a new launch pad for this stuff because it's easy to become disheartened and even defeated in this time of maximum chaos and being buffeted. No, we are the light and we all have a responsibility to do what we can in our little worlds. The magician, guys, you've got the magician. As above, so below. You've got all the tools there. So if you're feeling exhausted and ground down and overwhelmed, it's time to convert that energy. We need to have energy to move forward. So it's really, really essential. What gives you energy? That can be our homework for this week. I'll have to ask myself as well. What things give us energy? That might require looking at what saps your energy. Okay? So you could have two pieces of paper. Do the sapping first. What do you feel saps your energy? Write it down on a legal pad. Oh, it's dealing with my difficult boss or dealing with difficult family members or being surrounded by MAGAs in a red state or just being the yes person for everyone and you're doing too much. What saps your energy? Write it all out. Fold that piece of paper and you can dispose of it as you wish during the week. Think of a way of getting rid of that energy. What's an ethical way that makes sense for you? On another piece of paper, what gives you energy? What still excites you? What makes you passionate? What changes would you like to see? And you write those on another page and you keep those and you light candles for that, right? So I suggest you do it in two parts. What is sapping you? What gives you energy? Let me know in the comments. Oh, I love that. All right, guys. Ciao for now.